I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch network. It's great seeing MAGA Republican Marjorie Taylor Greene get shredded, not just by Democrats, but by even other MAGA Republicans. We previously covered here a radio interview that Ken Buck gave. He's a MAGA Republican on the Freedom Caucus who, in this radio interview, called out Marjorie Taylor Greene for knowing nothing about impeachment, and he said that while he was in law school, Marjorie Taylor Greene's been making CrossFit videos and now believes she's an expert on impeachment, but that she has no clue what she's doing and just prefers to, boast to her social media following than do any serious work. Now, look, I disagree with Ken Buck, a MAGA Republican on most issues, but here he's going after Marjorie Taylor Greene, and I think he's right about the things he's going after her for. And so here Ken Buck, once again, over the weekend, gave another interview, this time with Jen Psaki, where, again, he went after Marjorie Taylor Greene and explained she was calling for his impeachment before Biden was even elected. So why does she have any credibility at all? Here, play this clip of MAGA Republican Ken Buck going after MAGA Republican Marjorie Taylor Greene. Play the clip.
Well, perhaps Congressman Marjorie Taylor Greene, who you have been pretty vocal in pushing back on, is getting your message, because yesterday she posted, quote, this, quote, "Our country deserves for Congress to vote for an impeachment inquiry for very important reasons, not a rush impeachment vote." That is a bit of a shift in the timeline, a little bit of a pumping of the brakes on it. What did you make of that?
Well, Marjorie filed impeachment, articles of impeachment on President Biden before he was sworn into office more than 2.5 years ago. So the idea that she is now the expert on impeachment, or that she is someone who should set the timing on impeachment, is absurd. The time for impeachment is the time when there's evidence linking President Biden, if there's evidence linking President Biden to a high crime or misdemeanor. That doesn't exist right now, and it isn't really something that we can say, well, in February we're going to do this. It's based on the facts. You go where the facts take you.
Just as a reminder, this is MAGA Republican Ken Buck going after Marjorie Taylor Greene in that radio interview that I discussed earlier in this clip. Just to remind you, this is chef's kiss kind of brilliant in this interview. Watch Ken Buck, again, who I disagree with. Listen to him on this interview, though. Play this clip.
Marjorie Taylor Greene came out and said, we played the sound yesterday, that she's like, I'm not voting for any budget bill, no continuing resolution, nothing that doesn't involve the defunding of Jack Smith's special counsel office and everything that he's doing. Do you feel similarly about that issue as you do to defunding the FBI and the ATF and the DEA, et cetera?
So George, when I was teaching law school, I learned and taught certain constitutional principles. When Marjorie Taylor Greene was teaching CrossFit, she learned a whole different set of values, evidently, because my idea of what this country should be like is based on the Constitution. And she sees the world differently. She's criticized me for voting to certify the election in 2020. The Constitution says Congress shall count the votes. It doesn't say Congress may overturn an election result. It doesn't say Congress can do whatever the heck it wants with this election. Shall count the votes. That's what the Constitution says. In her CrossFit class, maybe they didn't cover that. And it also, the Constitution also says that the impeachment of a president shall be based on treason, high crimes, misdemeanors. It doesn't say it's a political exercise,
right?
And we hope the Senate does the right thing. And so I get tired of people. One of the beauties of Congress is you bring 435 people together from different backgrounds, and you try to reach a consensus on issues. When you've got people who care more about their social media accounts than they do about the Constitution, we have a real problem in Congress.
And Marjorie Taylor Greene's been going after Ken Buck and other MAGA Republicans and Republicans for not supporting impeachment inquiries and an impeachment of President Joe Biden. For example, this is a town hall that Marjorie Taylor Greene held while Congress was still in recess, where she called out the Freedom Caucus. I mean, the Freedom Caucus is like as right-wing as you get, but now she's even too crazy for the Freedom Caucus. She's too extreme for a group that's fairly extreme and radical to begin with. Here's Marjorie Taylor Greene calling them out. Play this clip.
It is so frustrating seeing other GOP members not doing anything to support Trump. I agree with that. Do they not understand if they succeed getting Trump, they will do it to all GOP candidates in the future? Well, whoever this person is really smart. That's the absolute truth. It's like Pandora's box. As soon as it's opened, right? As soon as it's opened, they're going to come after all of us. Some of them have already called themselves out. Ken Buck is, member of the Freedom Caucus, is on TV. Supposedly he's come around. Don Bacon was one of them, Brian Fitzpatrick. Lawler in New York. There's been multiple members of Congress that in the past months have said they wouldn't vote for an impeachment inquiry. But what I found out in the past couple of days, I think everyone's there. So we're supposed to be getting it in September. We'll see. We'll see.
And by the way, it should be noted, Marjorie Taylor Greene's not a fringe figure in the Republican Party anymore, though. She's maybe the second or third most powerful person in the Republican Party. She basically controls what Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy does. She's on the most powerful committees. She's on important reconciliation committees where bills in the House get reconciled with the Senate, and Kevin McCarthy puts her on these committees. Here is Marjorie Taylor Greene attacking Congressmember Buck in a bunch of social media posts. Ironic, because that's exactly how Ken Buck is calling her out, saying, just can you get off social media and actually, maybe read the Constitution? And so here, she posts a letter that Ken Buck sent to members of the Colorado Republican Party, and he wanted to correct the record because Marjorie Taylor Greene and a lot of these other MAGA Republicans are just using false information and saying that there are hundreds of January 6th insurrectionists who are in jail without any hearings for even misdemeanors. And Ken Buck's like, that's just simply not true. There's no one being held in custody on a misdemeanor. Everybody's had hearings, and this isn't a Biden deep state, whatever the latest MAGA conspiracy is. These judges, whether it's Judge Tim Kelly or there's three judges in particular are Trump-appointed D.C. judges who have been the ones making these sentences and been presiding over cases involving the insurrectionists. So Marjorie Taylor Greene responds to Ken Buck sending that letter, and Marjorie Taylor Greene's like, I'm appalled by this factually wrong and completely out of touch letter that's written by Ken Buck. And then she talks about how Ken Buck passed the buck on voting to object to the January 6th on voting to object on January 6, 2021 and certify Joe Biden's election. So she's criticizing him for not violating the law. And then she's appalled about his letter regarding the treatment of January 6th insurrectionists, January 6th defendants. And she talks about how she believes they're being persecuted. And it's just that's mainstream MAGA Republican stuff that's even gone so extreme that even the Freedom Caucus is like, what are you talking about? You're singing songs with the January 6th insurrectionists? Like what now? Here's an interview Marjorie Taylor Greene just gave as well, where she talks about how she wants to make sure that Donald Trump and herself and others impeach everybody and impeach the judges. Anybody who's presided over these January 6th insurrection cases and the Trump cases, they should get impeached, and we need to go after them, she says. Just watch how insane this is. Play this clip.
The Fulton County DA is charging President Trump and others in the state of Georgia with. And this is what I want to do. I want to make sure that the Republican Party never, ever forgets because we need to be sure to come after these people when we win the White House in 2024. And I'm going to tell you something right now, Eric, we are going to win. And when we win and we take charge of the Department of Justice and the FBI, those agencies need to be gutted. They need to be gutted of the communists that are doing this to Americans and twisting the Justice Department. We need to impeach these judges that are abusing the power of their bench. And then we need to go after the real criminals in America, the ones that are destroying our freedoms and the ones that are willing to tear our country down and politicize the power of the federal government against Americans.
You know, and here is Democratic Congress member Dan Goldman, though I think putting it perfectly in the interview that he gave over this past weekend. He's like, okay, Congress is returning from recess. The American people are about to see how dysfunctional the MAGA Republicans can really get. We haven't even seen it yet because MAGA Republicans don't want to fund our government. And you're going to see Kevin McCarthy push for the impeachment of President Biden. Both of those are going to take place, trying to not fund our government and impeach President Biden. And you're going to see this incredible infighting between the MAGA Republicans over these issues. Here, play this clip of Dan Goldman on MSNBC this weekend.
So back here in Washington, Congress is returning later this month. You were the lead majority counsel in the first impeachment of Donald Trump. Kevin McCarthy has been making a lot of noise about moving forward with a process toward an impeachment inquiry of President Biden. If that were to happen, what will Congress or the White House be able to get anything done at all over the next year? I mean, this could suck up a lot of oxygen and time and effort and energy.
Right. I mean, the timing of it is interesting. We are hitting the end of the fiscal year, September 30th. The Senate has passed all 12 of their appropriations bills through committee. They are now taking them onto the floor to be done by September 30th. The House Republicans have passed 1 out of 12. There's no indication that they can get their own act in order and they can make any agreements among themselves to actually pass these bills and keep the government open. And part of the reason that they're running into trouble is that they are going back on their own agreement in the debt ceiling bill, and they're undercutting the top line amount in the appropriations bills that they agreed to. And so this is the constant and persistent dysfunction, chaos, and just complete disorganization on the part of the Republicans who cannot run the government. And instead, what they are doing is focusing on doing the bidding of Donald Trump, distracting from Donald Trump, and trying to launch a completely baseless, meritless impeachment investigation. It is one thing to actually go forward with any misconduct, but we're not talking about impeaching Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden is being dealt with by the Department of Justice. There is no evidence, none whatsoever, and I don't care how much they say otherwise. I have looked at it. There is no direct evidence that President Biden was involved in any way, shape, or form in Hunter Biden's business dealings, and they would be going forward with an impeachment inquiry based on lies.
You know, I'm watching that interview of Congressmember Dan Goldman. You know, I did an interview of Congressmember Auchincloss, Democrat from Massachusetts, MIT, MBA, Harvard undergrad, Marine Corps veteran, helped train Panamanian special forces in their war on drugs, served in Afghanistan, 35 years old, became a member of Congress. Look at Dan Goldman, top prosecutor in New York, prosecuted mafia cases. And then you compare just like experience to like Marjorie Taylor Greene. It's just like, what are we talking about here, people? Like, I just want smart, intelligent, qualified people. Normalcy. And when Ken Buck starts sounding normal, you see how extreme this Republican Party's gotten. Tell me what you think in the comments below. Hit subscribe on our YouTube channel and check us out at patreon.com/MeidasTouch. Have a great day.
Hey Meidas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.